All it takes is one bad day. That's how far the world is from where I am. Just one bad day.
If there's a trope in fiction that I seemingly never get tired of, it's without a doubt the fallen hero character archetype. It's a concept that we've seen countless times over many millennia thanks to it being a prominent component of mythologies and religions around the world. If you ask me, it's really not a huge shocker that these types of characters are usually fan favorites considering how close to home a lot of them are. There's just something so relatable about trying to do the right thing and having the weight of the world crush you under its unforgiving heel and forever change who you are. But what makes these characters so interesting to me are the discussions they bring about in regards to things such as forgiveness, redemption, and morality. Within the shonen genre, there's certainly no shortage of this character type to analyze, for better and for worse. And JUJUTSU Kaisen has one such character in its cast that we'll be looking at in this video. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of it all, I want to say thank you so much for the support on my first JJK video. It means a lot, and I'm excited to keep bringing you guys fresh videos about the manga I so deeply love. If you enjoy what I make here on the channel, consider dropping a like, a comment, and even subscribing to the channel. It really helps boost me in the almighty algorithm. And whilst you're at it, maybe join our community Discord. Link is in the description. We have a JJK, Bleach, and Chainsaw Man channel, among many others to hang out in and talk with fellow like-minded individuals. Come on in and hang with us. We're a pretty cool group. Now, without further ado, let's take a look at the fall of Special Grade Sorcerer and Satoru Gojo's boyfriend, Suguru Geto. When we're first introduced to Geto, or at least whom we believe to be Geto, he's shown to be an antagonist working alongside the disaster curses to bring about a new age of jujutsu sorcery. It's not until the Gojo flashback and JJK 0 that we're given a glimpse into his past and what brought about his change from protector of the innocent to national terrorist. During the Gojo flashback, Gege shows us that Geto has a strong sense of justice, even going as far as scolding Gojo over his childish viewpoints on the subject of defending the innocent. But as the mission to protect Tengen's vessel Riko Amanai comes to its gut-wrenching close, we see the cracks in his ideology start to form. I mean, who wouldn't start to break down mentally when you realize that the people who you've been putting your life on the line to protect are capable of such evil things? Even in the face of everything he's been through in the years since the Star Vessel incident, Geto continued to try to keep his code intact and not lose his way, which if you ask me is quite admirable, all things considered. After meeting and talking with fellow special grade sorcerer Yuki Tsukumo, the idea of a world without non-jujutsu sorcerers to vastly diminish the rate at which curses are birthed is planted into Geto's mind. When you look at everything he's been through, it's really no surprise that he would latch on to this ideal, no matter how flawed it is, and if you ask me, him trying so desperately to fight these feelings make it even more compelling. There are 3 events that were shown that act as catalysts to Geto's descent into madness, each one challenging a different aspect of his moral center. The Star Plasma Vessel incident challenged his views on whether or not non-jujutsu users deserve to be protected by sorcerers, while the death of Haibara made him dwell upon the life of a jujutsu sorcerer and what it ultimately leads to, and if it's even worth it in the end. If there were an event that would be considered the tipping point, it would undoubtedly have to be the village massacre. After seeing 2 completely innocent children severely punished by the villagers simply for having cursed abilities, he would go on to slaughter everyone who lived there, shattering any hope of him ever returning to his life as a protector of regular people. With everything that's been shown to us about Geto's past and how his world was basically flipped upside down in the span of 1 year, it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that he would ultimately become what he did. After his defeat at the hands of Yuta and on the verge of death, he's confronted one final time by his best friend, who, even after everything that's transpired, still obviously cares about him so much. What makes this final interaction so heartbreaking is Gojo's final words. While yes, we don't know what he said exactly, that hint of regret in Geto's voice makes you wonder if he could have been saved, and I'm sure Gojo asks himself that question every single day. Okay, so here's the point in the runtime that will either make or break the reception of this video, and that is the comparison of Suguru Geto to Yu Yu Hakusho's Shinobu Sensui. If you've never seen Yu Yu Hakusho to its completion, this part will definitely be lost on you, so my apologies for that. But also, if you've never seen Yu Yu Hakusho to its completion, you need to get your life in order and fix that immediately. Admittedly, I'm a little nervous about having this comparison in the video because I don't want other parts of the video to be overshadowed by it, and also people tend to hyper-focus on comparisons like this and lose sight of the bigger picture. But let's see how it goes, shall we? It's no real hot take to say that Geto is obviously heavily inspired by Sensui, as Gege takes huge amounts of inspiration from Yu Yu Hakusho and Togashi's works overall. Let's be honest here, even if you're one of those people that will deny the influence till you're blue in the face, you can't deny that the similarities are far too close to be more than a coincidence. Teenage boy who defends humanity from the supernatural? Check. Defecting to the side of evil after his line of work causes him to snap? Check. Seeks to bring about an end of the world scenario as a way to punish humanity for their sins? Big, fat check. Hell, they both even held that same black and white view of the nature of the world around them that would become twisted and corrupted by their madness. Now, while there are plenty of similarities between both characters, there are a few distinct differences that set them apart. For starters, Sensui was basically a lone child soldier fighting on behalf of the spirit world, hunting demons with no peers to confide in and keep himself anchored. While, yes, he would eventually meet the demon Itsuki and become close with him, all those years of having to shoulder the burden of being able to see poltergeists certainly had a lasting effect on him. This is quite the opposite to Geto, as his entire life revolved around being a jujutsu sorcerer and living amongst a society of people like himself. If Geto needed guidance, he could reasonably find it by confiding in a fellow sorcerer, like he sort of does when he talks with Yuki, but Sensui was never afforded such a luxury. Another difference between the two is purpose in their actions, and this is probably the most interesting one if you ask me. In trying to open up a portal to the demon world, Sensui seeks penance by wishing to be killed by a demon as an act of retribution for all the demons he had killed in his years as a spirit detective. The apocalypse was just an added bonus. Contrast this with Geto, who seeks to wipe out all non-sorcerers in an attempt to free the world from curses and form a new purely jujutsu society. One seeks redemption, the other seeks his own twisted version of justice. Honestly, very ironic that Geto put all this effort into wanting to wipe out humans to stop the birth of curses, just for his body to be used as a puppet to fight alongside curse spirits and bring about a new age of curses. With everything in mind that I've discussed in the video thus far, I think it's time I give my personal opinions on Geto and why I'm so divided on his character and his role in the series. I know he's quite the popular character, so I'm going to do my best to do him justice in this analysis, so bear with me here. Let's start off with the positives. I feel like setting the tone with the stuff I actually like is better in the long run. For starters, I legitimately think his monk robe design is super clean. He definitely has that shit on. I also think he makes a great foil for Yuta and JJK0. Their dynamic, while short-lived, was cool to see and felt thematically appropriate. Here you have a man like Geto who threw everything away to pursue a goal fueled by, in my honest opinion, misguided hatred, being ultimately defeated by the next generation that, despite all the hardships he's faced, stands tall to do what's right, even now. But what I think I like the most about Geto is that his fall from grace does feel genuine and not forced, and narratively I think it works very well, especially if you factor in the Kenjaku twist in Shibuya. We're given ample time to familiarize ourselves with his character through different points in his life, which adds a lot of weight to figuring out that it wasn't him this entire time. There's a sense of cruel irony to learning that for every action that he took in seeking out his own brand of justice, it was all for naught when Kenjaku stole his body. Sadly, that's where my list of positives end, and now begins the part where I slander this self-righteous bozo to high heavens. It's only half ironic, since while I do want to give a good analysis, I just can't help but be a hater sometimes. You just wouldn't get it.
Oh man, hate.
Let's go ahead and kick this off with something that some fans may pass off as just a minor nitpick, and that's his status as one of the 4 special grade sorcerers. The sorcerer ranking system is a little loose and ultimately doesn't play a huge part in the plot, especially considering how after the Shibuya incident, the grading scale is basically rendered moot. But the problem in regards to Geto's status as one stems from just how incomplete his toolkit feels compared to his peers. Granted, JJK0 was well before Gege had fleshed out the Jujutsu system to what we would come to know it for when the main series began, so I'll cut him some slack for that. But man, there's really not even a hint of what would actually qualify Geto for a special grade if you ask me. Even disregarding Gojo because, well, he's Gojo, and just looking at Yuki and Yuta, we're shown why they were given the title of Special Grade. Yuki and Yuta both fight against characters from the Heian era of sorcery, which is regarded as the peak era of Jujutsu with the strongest sorcerers and curses, and prove firsthand why they deserve to be regarded that high. But with Geto, we're only shown Uzumaki, which is cool as shit, don't get me wrong. Gege putting an homage to Uncle Junji in his manga is raw, but that's all we see from him outside of summoning cursed spirits to fight alongside him. Even when Kenjaku has his body, the only technique he chooses to use of Geto's is Uzumaki, not even a tease of a domain expansion or hints of any other techniques that may have helped emphasize why this character was considered to be so special and important. I know this sounds like typical shonen bro power scaler garbage, but when Gege himself makes a point to highlight that these characters have the potential to topple entire countries by themselves, I think I'm validated in wanting Geto to be more than a pretty face, you feel me? Moving on to a more character writing gripe I have with this character, and I really don't know how well this opinion is going to be received, but I don't think Geto is justified in what he does, to be frank. What he experiences during the flashback is without a doubt traumatizing, but with how big of a support network he had access to, I just can't feel any sympathy for him. Obviously, trauma affects people in vastly different ways, and he is right to feel angry and resentful to a degree, but I think I draw the line at becoming a genocidal terrorist. The life of a Jujutsu sorcerer is one of tragedy. All of them experience it in one way or another at different points in their lives. But Yuji's minimal time as a sorcerer is quite literally the antithesis to Geto's twisted idea of justice. I don't want to power scale trauma here, don't get me wrong, but if we're being honest, Yuji went through so much more in a much shorter time frame than Geto, and yet he continues to push forward no matter how difficult the struggles are. Maybe the root of the issue is the overall pacing of the series, since we don't get too much time with Geto like I think we should have, but from the material we are given, we're not given any scene of him confiding in anyone at all after what happened. Maybe you could count the interaction he has with Gojo at the cult hideout if you really want to reach for the stars, but this felt like there was so much left on the table as far as characterization goes. And what makes it even weirder to me is that his conversation with Yuki, a character he had never even met up to that point, plants the idea in his head about getting rid of non-sorcerers as a way to stop the creation of any more cursed spirits. It honestly feels a little contrived, but maybe I'm the idiot here. I'd love to hear what others think in response to this in particular. And with that, I think I've said all I have to say about Suguru Geto. At the end of all this, and having reread every single chapter with him in it at least 3 times, I honestly still don't know what to think about him. That's probably going to come across as an extreme cop-out answer, but to be honest, there's just not enough material to where I feel comfortable giving a solid answer on whether I dislike him or not. I think he's a character that could have been utilized a lot better with a little more screen time, and honestly a fight that he actually won against a threatening character, cause hot damn do they beat his ass every single time. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. This is my first ever character analysis, so I'm kinda unsure about the overall quality of my script, but that's why it's a marathon and not a race. Whether you're a Geto fan or a Geto hater, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Until next time everybody, make sure to keep being kind to one another, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye everybody.